Good morning. This is the One Love Breakfast, live from Inner City, Bristol.
早安
Goedemorgen.
Guten Morgen
Καλημέρα.
Bon matin.
صبح अच्छा है
Buongiorno.
Ohayo gozaimasu
Salve. Gumon. Dzień dobry.
Доброе утро
Dobre rano. Buenos días.
Good morning ตอนเช้าที่ดี
The One Love Breakfast is the people's choice.
Let's get together and feel alright.
The One Love Breakfast.
It's 9:35. Good morning if you just joined us. Now, food poverty is a very real occurrence locally, nationally and internationally. Many of us still do not realise how privileged we are to be able to pop to the shops and pick up food items, even if we moan about the prices. Well, as usual, Bristol is doing its thing. A local man has launched a crowdfunder that went live a few hours ago, and he's aiming to raise £100,000. Bristol Local Food Fund will fund community food projects that are fighting food insecurity, prioritising those who are experiencing the greatest disadvantage. Michael Lloyd-Jones joins us now. Good morning.
Morning, Pat. How you doing?
Hey, really, really good and lovely to hear from you now. Michael, I'm not even going to ask why. Why? It's obvious, isn't it? Well, to you and I. How about everyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. Food insecurity, food poverty is a massive problem, not just in Bristol, but across our country, unfortunately. And it doesn't have to be this way. And I think as a city, Bristol, we've got a lot of assets that we can use to tackle the problem together. And I think that could be an amazing thing to do. And that's why we launched the crowdfunder.
Now, some people might be asking, and it's my job to do that as well, why a crowdfunder and say not an appeal to investors or just other types of kind of big companies and donors?
Well, we're trying to. You're right. I think we need to do it all. So the crowdfunder, we're targeting a lot of individual donations. We've raised £16,000 already this morning.
Wow, amazing!
And a big chunk of that is actually from a very large company called Burgess Salmon, who are an independent UK law firm.
Yeah,
they're probably one of the largest sort of major law firms in the UK and certainly in Bristol.
Yeah,
and their staff actually did a major fundraise earlier in the year in advance of the Bristol Local Food Fund, and they raised just under £10,000 to get us started.
Amazing.
So really, really applaud Burgess Salmon for that support. And we're really looking to other companies in the city, large companies that want to make a major donation and, in line with their CSR stuff. But also we've got over 40 of Bristol's local independent, mostly food businesses offering rewards to the crowdfunder.
Yeah.
So if you come onto the crowdfunder page, you can find lots of different rewards, gift vouchers, £10, £25 from Bristol's kind of finest food businesses, so they're supporting the fund too, and really welcome all that support from Bristol's business community as well as people who just want to donate and make a difference.
So, Michael, we know full well, we cover news stories. I mean, funnily enough, just in the national news just now, talking about, it's all well and good saying, we're going to give people a pay rise and whatever. But with the increased cost of living, everything from fuel prices to a loaf of bread and milk and all the other bits and pieces, it looks as though things aren't actually getting any better. So we've got an explosion of projects and food banks, but that is it's still not, I wouldn't say it's not even, touching the sides, but it's a massive, massive problem. What is it that made you decide that this is another solution to that? What was the, if you like, the turning point for you?
I think, it was, so I started thinking about this idea a long time ago, but originally it used to be about food growing. But then during the lockdown, I sort of went half-time at work and I had a lot of time to think, and I thought, let's try and make this idea happen. We've got this amazing food and drink sector in the city, in Bristol, and mostly independent businesses, people starting their own thing, and it's a brilliant community. But also I think we all know that in Bristol, lots of people, for thousands of people in Bristol, that's not really part of their world. It's not something they experience or feel is for them. But I just thought we could build something from that, because people that run these businesses work really, really hard, and people that spend their money and enjoy Bristol's food and drink sector, they are caring people. You know, we're a progressive city, we're a liberal city, we care about inequality, and I thought that's something we could tap into together. And really, we know that there's not enough action happening on inequality, and specifically in this case on food insecurity. So we again, as Bristol's done many times before, it's a long tradition, is we're trying to do it ourselves.
So how will these funds, so £100,000 you're hoping to raise, and we think that, you know, it's by no means, you know, too much of a sum for our city to raise. I think we can do it, and we'll be supporting that. And if you're listening, by the way, we'll be sharing on our socials as well after the programme how people can donate. Michael, how will the funds be distributed, and which communities will benefit?
Well, that's another way that we're trying to do things a bit differently with the Bristol Local Food Fund. So if we raise 100 grand or close, or, you know, a big enough sum, I think, we're going to, rather than just kind of decide ourselves how to give out the money, because I don't personally know about food insecurity myself, and I'm not going to pretend that I do, and I think it'd be wrong if other people pretend that they understand issues that deeply, because to experience it is something really serious to go through in your life.
Sure.
So what we're going to do is going to create a citizens panel. So a panel of people from across Bristol, probably about 10 to 12 people who you know, diverse and representative of Bristol's different communities. We're going to get them together and support them. We're going to pay them or remunerate them for their time and on a living wage, and properly support them, and to decide how the funds should be given out. Because one of the things we found when I was researching, you know, how could a Bristol Local Food Fund work, I went and spoke to lots of community food projects across Bristol that are working in communities that experience some of the biggest disadvantages, and asking them, you know, what would you want to see from a fund? And a lot of it was about accessibility of a fund. You know, lots of them struggle to, you know, get stuck into grant funding applications because they're very complicated, or they're very large forms. You have to write lots of stuff. You have to report really clearly on how you spent your money, and it's a big challenge for small projects that are trying to tackle food insecurity. A lot of the time, people are working voluntarily. They're delivering stuff. You know, especially during the lockdown, people were just volunteering and cooking in their own kitchens and spending their own money to just help people. And when you're doing that, it's such valuable work, but you don't often have time to go through, you know, a great big application process, write a massive document, put it in, see what happens. We want to do that differently, and we think a citizens panel of people with lived experience of food insecurity of the city will help us and the partners that are helping to deliver the Bristol Local Food Fund to make that really accessible, really simple process, and not burdensome, and you know, as helpful as possible. And we think doing that might influence other funders in the city.
And I guess, you know, something that I find quite exciting and important as well, when you're asking for a citizens panel, you're asking for local people to be involved, and actually you're going to pay them for their time, because as you quite rightly say, often the people that have that key information and expertise are the people that are struggling themselves and actually cannot afford to take time off work, for example, even though they want to be able to support things like this. So for me, you know, it's real forward thinking. It's a really well thought out process in that sense. How can people find out more, Michael, if both to donate and also just kind of like get to grips with the project?
Well, thanks for your support, Pat. That really means a lot, and that's really helpful. And that's the kind of support we need from anyone who's listening to this in Bristol who thinks this is a good idea. I'd like to see it happen. Well, I'd just say, please help us make it happen. But you can do that by, first thing if you're able to, is go to the crowdfunder, go to our crowdfunder page, crowdfunder.co.uk/BLFF, Bristol Local Food Fund, and you can donate. If you're not in a position to donate, that's absolutely fine. You could share the campaign with friends and family, and tell more people about it, because, you know, word of mouth is one of the most powerful ways to get the word out about something.
Of course.
If people want to find out more, we've got a website, so www.bristollocalfoodfund.com. and there's plenty of information on there. You can get in touch with us. We're on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, if that's your kind of thing. And yeah, we've got a whole team of volunteers who've been working on this project for a good, I think, coming up to 9 months since we started having a volunteer team. And they're brilliant. I'd just like to say thank you to all of them, and to thank you to all the partners: Bristol City Council, Feeding Bristol, Quartet, or Bristol City Funds, Bristol Food Network, and Burgess Salmon. They've all been fantastic in supporting us to get to this point where we started this thing from scratch, and I really hope we can make it go a really long way in Bristol and establish this fund and start making a big impact in tackling food insecurity as a city.
Definitely. Hargreaves Lansdowne, a massive company. I know that some of their people will be listening right now, so get onto them and make sure that your crew donate as well. Michael, listen, make sure you tag in BCFM Radio, myself and Prim as well. We'll share all of these social media details and all of the details of how people can get in touch. Just one final question, though. If there's someone driving along listening to this and saying, yeah, all sounds great, but we got loads of food banks already. Why do we need this? What would your short answer be to them?
I would say, well, there's two things. We're stronger together as a city. Let's do this together as a city instead of individuals trying to tackle a problem. And also, the fund will support community food projects that are really offering innovative local solutions to food insecurity. I think food banks play a really important role in tackling an emergency. Yeah. But in terms of a long-term solution to food insecurity, I don't think they're the only way to go. I think you need to have a lot more of a mix. We've got community food projects that are growing food, employing people, cooking, giving cooking lessons and kitchens, providing spaces to cook, all sorts of different stuff. So we need to come together and deliver all those different solutions and support them.
Absolutely, a global and kind of holistic approach to all of this, bringing all of that together and supporting it. Michael, listen, make sure that you're not a stranger and that you keep in touch with us, because we very much at BCFM are committed to supporting this. And as I say, we'll be publicising everything. So let's talk again soon. And if you're listening, an individual, you work for a company or a business, and that your bosses can go and chip into this as well, make sure you share it and let them know. And as I say, if you don't feel that you can afford to chip in yourself, as Michael says, share it with others who you probably know can afford to do so. It's great to talk to you, mate, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Pat. It's an absolute pleasure. Really appreciate your support.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Michael Lloyd-Jones on the newly launched crowdfunder Bristol Local Food Fund, and you can donate now.
Your One Love Breakfast Travel Update.